Welcome to Mommy Making Millions, the podcast. I'm your hostess, Marquita Deshay, mompreneur mentor, author, and visionary strategist. I help mompreneurs develop balance between their businesses and their babies while attaining generational wealth, simply taking their ideas and helping them to turn it into profitable income. Join me bi-weekly as I put the spotlight on other successful millionaire mompreneurs for them to also share their best business practices and truly unveil what it looks like from the glamorous life to the deep, dark, nitty-gritty life of a mompreneur. Welcome back, Mommy Millionaires. Listen, we're kicking off season 2 of the Mommy Making Millions podcast. Are y'all excited? Your girl has made it to 15 episodes, and this is really huge for me, y'all. I cannot tell y'all how thankful, how grateful I am that you ladies have been rocking and have been rolling. You guys have been listening. You guys have been sharing, and I just want to say thank you. I just never really expected this. But listen, before we hop into this episode, I want you to know that we are now streaming live on YouTube. Yes, go and check us out. If you want to see this episode, check me out on YouTube at Marquita Deshay, and you can actually live stream this episode with us. Well, not actually live stream it, but it's as if you were right there with us, girl. So just come on. On this episode of Mommy Making Millions, the podcast, I got my girl, Takisha Artis. She's a life coach who actually mixed her spirituality, her psychology degree with the neuroscience and finance to transform not only just her life, but those of her clients that she works with as well. And it's also her mission to teach women how to do the same by using a holistic approach to confidently co-creating and sustaining a wealthy lifestyle. Come on, wealthy lifestyle. She used her own mythology to create a framework. Y'all know I love a framework, a good framework at that has also not helped just her, but also allowed her to co-create a lifestyle that she's loved so much so she's created a business by being the CEO of Takisha's Theory, a financial empowerment forum. Y'all ready? I hope y'all got the paper and pens and just ready to soak up all of this biscuits and gravy that Takisha is getting ready to drop for us on this episode of Mommy Making Millions, the podcast. We're going to be talking about how to live a wealthy mom lifestyle. Welcome back, Mommy Millionaires, to another episode of Mommy Making Millions, the podcast. I'm extremely excited for today, ladies. We have an amazing guest. I know I probably say that every time, but I feel like we are getting better and better with the moms that are coming on. The moms are really showing up this season, and I really feel like the moms have entered the chat. We have one of our lovely guests who I'm excited to talk to today because she's going to talk to us about shifting our mindset and really what it's like to co-create wealth as a mommy making million. So welcome, Takisha Atkins. Is that right? Am I saying that correctly?
Artis.
I knew that. Things never go as planned when you're trying to do things live on air. But I did know that. I read that. I said, no, this is Artis. So welcome to Mommy Making Millions podcast. I'm going to take a moment to just kind of put a little bit of respect on your name. You have been out in these streets. I've saw over 20 years. And when I say out in these streets, I just mean you've been in the game for quite some time. Quite some time now. So I'm going to give a little bit about you. You have over 20 years. Okay. Let's just say 20 years in the financial industry. You've seen people continuously struggle, but overall, you've been helping people mindset shift. So let's back up. You're a life coach. You mix life coaching with spirituality. You're also a certified public accountant. Okay. See what I'm saying? The receipt dropping in. Yeah. And then I was like, what the heck is a neuro-linguistic? Am I saying that right? Practitioner, yes. Y'all, come on. Drop the gems for us on this episode because we need to know what the heck that actually is and how we can live truly a wealthy life as a mom because this is truly what the Mommy Making Million podcast is all about. So welcome to the Mommy Making Millions podcast. And I want you to also give us a little bit of backstory about yourself because I know sometimes when we start giving all of those titles, people are just like, woo, and blown back. But really, what is it that you do on a day-to-day?
I am a certified public accountant who stumbled into why do we know what to do with money, but why don't we do it? And that was always my question. I was helping clients and I'm like, why isn't this such a important thing to you? And I stumbled upon money mindset. And so I said, I'm going to change my mindset so I can get a better idea of how to help my clients. But the interesting thing happened. When I changed my money mindset, I really didn't change that first. I changed me. I changed who I was. I changed my relationship with money for sure, but my life got better. And so I was like, okay, so this money thing really isn't about money, it's a self thing. And that was like, oh, it clicked. So then I was like, how can I know more about this? So I started to get certifications on how to do life coaching because it wasn't a money issue, it was a self issue. So then I was like, okay, I want to kind of know how to really change my mindset, how to really know what it is I want. Like, people know how to do things and why they should, but there's some sabotage, some block that's stopping them. In NLP for me, which is neuro-linguistic programming, that was it. And I was just like, okay, I got it. And so I infuse all of those. If you read my blogs or if you are on social media, I'm always putting that in there because we can really change not just our mindset, but how we think. And I think that's part of the problem. We don't think about what we think about.
For sure. And what I'm realizing is I did take a peek at some of your blogs. Your blogs are truly amazing. I want to scale back just a little bit because you talked about just shifting of the mindset. And I'm a firm believer of saying that you manifest your millions in your mindset before they actually manifest in your bank account. And I've learned that coming from losing my own job and then shifting into the world of entrepreneurship, but also being broke as an entrepreneur, making six figures and trying to figure out how to manage it, and having that mindset shift to say, I don't care, what I was birthed into, I don't care what my credit score is looking like. I have the power to really shift and transform, my mind into thinking and believing bigger and better so that not only I can have it, but the generations after me, my children can have it because they are deserving of this as well. So one of my questions to you is, at what point as a mother, as a woman, did you realize that you truly had the capacity to develop that mindset shift? Like, what was the aha moment for you that really allowed you to say, you know what, I am going to go ahead and get the NLP licensing to help me kind of give that added bonus to who you are?
I think what shifted for me is when I realized my son had to be a toddler because he was still an arm baby. And I remember having to file for bankruptcy. I'm first generation college student. So I came out of college with debt. I didn't know, how to use credit cards. No one had that conversation with me. So I graduated with probably 10 credit cards, a lot of credit card debt, in addition to student loan debt. And then I find myself as a newly single mom. And what I realized is that I had been trained to manage millions for corporations, but not the thousands for myself. And I was like, why is that? Why don't I know how to do this for myself? And I was just like, okay, bankruptcy in the Black community is such a negative thing, but in other communities, it is what it is, a fresh start, a
Mhm.
way to do over. And I was just like, I'm going to do this. I'm going to start fresh and I'm going to provide the lifestyle for my son that I've always wanted. And that shift has just kind of carried on. Like, I've taught my son how to budget, and I didn't do it intentionally. I just did it because I was a single mom. So I'm like, Santa can't really help us right now. I need you to work within my budget. And
Mhm.
so while you're trying to circle everything in these Christmas catalogs, let me tell you, like, this is how much we can do, and you figure out. And so now he's 21 and he knows how to, how those life skills work. But it was really that moment, like, why don't I know how to do this? And why was I not taught that? And let me teach myself this because obviously it's a life skill that I need. And just looking at him and realizing that I really have that co-creative power to do anything really was the catalyst for me, because it was like, if I can create, we're manifesting all the time.
Mm-hmm.
And so we're just not intentional with it. So if I'm a little bit more intentional with what I want and what I deserve and what I know are my goals, then by default, I should be able to have those things. And so it was just, again, me shifting and wanting something better. But this last year for me, my life is totally unrecognizable.
Mm. But I think that's
Totally.
what it's all about too. I'm hearing that, and I'm learning that as well, just being super uncomfortable and being in that period of transitioning so that we can chart uncharted territory, especially as women and as moms and high achieving entrepreneurs. What I want to talk about is your ability to co-create,
Mhm.
and what does the word by your definition, what do you mean when you say co-create?
Okay. So I believe in God and I believe in the power of prayer.
Mm-hmm.
And so for me, when I do or say my prayers, I believe that what I'm praying, I will get, period. It doesn't matter what it is. I may not know when it's going to happen. I may not know all of the steps that will get me there, but I know it will happen.
Mm-hmm.
So I say that this is my goal. This is where I am. This may be up to this point, maybe what I know to do. That other piece, I call that the God gap. God got that. So I don't have to worry about that. I just need to do my part. I need to do the nudges. I need to take the nudges as they come. I need to take the inspired action. I need to do the work on making sure that when those doubts come up, that I am, reframing the doubts. I need to make sure that I'm protective of what it is and not talking to everyone about it who may be, it may be they want the best, but they may be negative in their delivery.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's being protective of what it is that I am manifesting. And I just feel like if I'm holding and doing my part, God will do his part. And that's co creation.
Oh my God,
The
I love that.
that gap though, that gap is the scary part, because
Ooh,
that gap you have no control over. That
man.
gap is the part where it's like, you sure you got me? Like, you sure this gonna happen? You sure I can have this? You sure I can do this? I'll tell you a quick story. January 12th, 2019, 2021, I wrote a post that said, I'm moving to California in the next 2 years. I'm putting it here as proof. January 2021, I wrote that out. What I thought was going to take 2 years took 3.5 months. I
Wow.
moved to California May 2021. Like, the pieces just came into you. I wasn't really worried about like how it came so fast that my house sold in 72 hours. I didn't even have a place in California, because I'm like, oh, it takes a long time for houses to sell. Like, I got time. And then when my realtor was like, we got 48 offers and give me until Monday, and I'm like, oh, take your time, because I have nowhere to go there. I hadn't even, because again, it was a 2 year thing. So I'm like, okay, at the very least, I'll be in California by the fall when my son goes away to school. 3.5 months. That's that God gap. I was not concerned about the time frame. I just knew in 2 years when he graduated, that's where we would be. That's the power of co-creation.
Wow. I
But I
mean,
had faith. It was just like, okay, it's a done thing.
let's talk about that for a minute. You said so many, you just wow. Okay, wow.
Let's unpack it.
Let's unpack this thing. Okay, so I love the God gap at this point, because I think that for
Yes.
me and so many of the listeners that are out there right now that are in between those blessings are trying to figure out, what should I be doing while I am manifesting and in this season of processing and transformation. And
Mhm.
then you talked about trusting God, but also understanding what the work needs to look like so that we can, allow God to do his part, but we're doing the work as well. And so you also focused on, being obedient, writing it down. Hello, let's talk about writing it down. I'm putting it here because I know this is going to come to pass. I know this is going to come to
Mhm.
pass, and I don't talk about it enough, but we focus on motherhood mindset in ministry here at the Mommy Making Millions podcast. So it's just those trinkles of those aha moments, and I'm in the middle of a fast right now because I'm in the middle and in the midst of this guy gap. So what you're saying
Mhm.
is so relevant and so powerful because I think that we hear about the mustard seed faith so often that we don't know how to navigate between now and next, and that's where we have to realize that is a God gap. And so co-creation,
Mhm.
I love your terminology of co-creation. It's God doing his thing, but I'm also doing the works because the Bible tells us faith without works is dead, right? So we
Yes.
have to be moving. And so one of the things that you did in your faith was you started executing on part of the strategy, which we haven't even gotten into strategy on the
Yeah.
podcast yet. So
Yes.
I also want to back up because I took a snippet from one of your blogs. You said, I see myself doing the work. I declare daily words to support the vision. I see myself taking action that supports the vision and asking for guidance. I speak to my goals. I boldly deny doubts, or hello, out
Mhm.
loud. And then I see and speak what I say until I see what I said. Wow.
Yes. You have to. I think so many women in particular, we don't have what we want because we're looking at where we are, and where we are compared to where we want to be seems so far. It seems so outlandish. It just seems so impossible. And so we say, I don't see how it can happen. So I probably shouldn't want it as bad. Or I probably am going to start doubting that it can happen. And
Mhm.
the moment you start to doubt it, it loses its vibrancy, it loses that momentum. But I want you to know, like, it doesn't matter where you are. Miracles can happen like that. And most of us have some type of story that proves that. And so there's this thing in NLP, it's called success stacking. And it says that, and I just used it for God because I'm not a church girl. And so I didn't have like all of these are the promises that God has. These are the things that God promises that, and so I read the Bible one summer and I was just like, I want to know for myself what his promises are. I want to build this relationship with him myself. And I was just like, okay, they say he's the father. Well, I
Mhm.
didn't have an earthly father. So, how do I build this relationship with this, in my mind, entity in the sky? And I was just like, I know he's real, but I don't know how to
Mm.
build that connection, that relationship. And I read this book by Mandy Hill, and everything in my spiritual journey starts here. And in the book is called Beautiful Uncertainty. And she has this part where she goes on this date with God. And I was like, that's it. Make God human.
Mm.
Make him human. I can relate to someone if they are human and maybe they're just not here with me, but I can still speak life to them. I can still talk to them. And so that's how I built my relationship with God. I said, and to this day, like it's in my mind, he comes with his suit on and we have coffee, or I envision us having, these dinner dates or whatever, but I made him human. And
Mm.
then I said, if he's my father, he absolutely wants the best for me. And so I started success stacking and saying, like, oh, well, he did this. Well, if he did this, he'll do this. Oh, well, if he did that, he'll do this. And if he did that, he'll do this. And so it just became my evidence that he's always there. He's always wanting the best. And I looked at it as my relationship with my son. I'm always going to put him in position to win.
Mhm.
Why
Mhm.
wouldn't God?
Ooh, that's good.
Why wouldn't God? I'm always going to give him the advice if he comes to me. I don't know what he's going through if he doesn't come to me.
Right, right.
I should probably go to God. I sh- God wants to bless me. I would give my son all of the money I have. Matter of fact, we all give them all of the money we have. Why wouldn't God want to bless me and give me all of the money that I need? And so I just started looking at it differently, and that success stacking just it gave me further proof that everything that I want, I can have. I just need to go to God for. And I'm willing to do my part and just let him do that God gap. And that success stacking. And when I went back and I was just like, he's always been there, but I would feel like certain parts, maybe he's there for this, but not for this. He's
Mm.
there for this, but not for the business. The business isn't doing it. But I was like, you also aren't doing what you're supposed to be doing in this business. You
Mhm.
want to stay over here and do this business finance, but I'm telling you to do more financial life coaching. So you aren't being obedient. So I'm not going to bless anything where you're not doing your part. And I was like, I hear you, but this is safe. I know how to do this. I've been doing that part for 20 years. This is new. But it's like, it wasn't new. I had been doing that. I just didn't have a name for it.
Right. Yeah. I love that. Success stacking. Okay, well,
Mhm.
we're gonna put some
And you can do it with anything at all. Like, it's just to build your confidence and show you that evidence that what you are now thinking is true. Like when you have doubts and you say, is this true? Most of the time the doubt isn't true. And then you say, okay, well, if it isn't true, what is the new doubt? What is the new belief I want to have? And
Mhm.
when you have that new belief, you can't just go back to the way you used to do things. You need new support, new evidence to make sure that you are in alignment with that new belief. And success stacking helps. It's like, oh, well, if God did that for her, he could do it for me. Oh, she's doing this in business, I could do that too. Or, whatever it is, but that success stacking just gives you that support for that new belief that you want to have.
Absolutely. I love that. I also love the fact that you mentioned being able to have that resources there to remove the belief and also to transition the belief system. So now you can have the power to believe, if she's doing it, it's possible for me to achieve. And I know that
Mhm.
the power of proximity for just anyone in business is just extremely important because it only looks impossible until it's done. And then when you
Mhm.
see it's done, you are like, you know what? I do serve God in this magnitude to whereas, I've also learned the power of asking for what we are seeking and being bold about what we're asking for.
Yeah.
And so that kind of transitions me into one of my next questions for you is, truly some of the mindset shifts that we need to have as women, as moms, that pertain to what we can truly have. And so it's almost like I remember being in corporate and feeling like I did not want to settle. I knew that there was more for me. I knew that
Mhm.
that I had valuable skill sets, but the opportunity there, it was just kind of like, God, where are you leading me? And so inside of where I was in the midst of that God gap, let's just say we're using the God gap.
Mhm.
How can you help women to have the mindset shifts of understanding the difference of them understanding what wealth really looks like as compared to what they really feel possible for them to achieve?
I think we should start with defining what wealth is for us. That's first. Wealth is going to look different to different people based on their money story, their attitudes with money, their relationship with money, what they find value in, where they are financially. It's all going to look different. When I first started, after I filed for bankruptcy, wealth to me looked like being able to pay all of my bills at one time.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And then wealth looked like me being able to save, $10,000. And that was like a lot to
Yeah.
me at that time, just to be able to save, but then to accumulate a lot of money. Oh, you cannot tell me I was not rich. And then, wealth looked like, having a good credit score. So wealth for me has really shifted based on where I am. Now I'm more settled. I have investments, and wealth right now to me is legacy. And I just
Mm-hmm.
finished doing my estate plan. And I'll tell you, like, that was very emotional. I put it off for a year. I felt like I was really preparing to die. That's what my mind said. You are preparing to die. You're and I just put it away. And then I put it away and forgot about it. And the attorney ended up sending me an email and I said, this process is definitely needed, but mentally, I had to go back and say, you're not preparing to die. You're
Mm-hmm.
preparing for the event that will happen so
Mm-hmm.
that your son doesn't have to deal with this and grief. And so I had to again shift it. And, when you define wealth, it makes what others think wealth is not matter. To me, wealth where I am now is the ability to freely experience life. We
Mm,
want the freedom.
absolutely.
We money is a part of it because money is what we use to afford us the lifestyle, but truly what we really want is the ability to experience life on our own terms. And everyone has their own definition of what that looks like. And so if you kind of take away what society says wealth is and define it for yourself, you'll be so much better off because it's truly for you. And I think that's the problem with so many self-help and um, financial, books or, programs is they don't remind you that wealth is your own journey. Like personal finance is personal to you. And so everyone can say like do, real estate or invest or, do this, but what does it feel like to you? What feels good to you? All of those avenues are possible, but what feels good to you? And then doing those things.
Mm-hmm.
Um I think also women in particular, we have to get over the guilt and the shame of not being where we think we should be or not being able to give our kids certain lifestyles that they see on social media and they want, and we may just not be able to afford right now. But I also think you can have conversations with your children even at a young age, and they don't necessarily know how much you make, but just invite them into those conversations because ultimately they're learning their money habits from you.
Yes.
And so if you aren't aware of your money habits, you're just passing them down. And sometimes even I still am unlearning, things from childhood that is like, oh, yeah, I know where that came from. I need to unlearn this and stop doing this and stop saying this because it really isn't serving me now. And I think sometimes that we forget that um everything that were taught isn't a good thing.
Right. Wow. Okay.
Let's unpack that.
Let's unpack that. I mean, okay. So it made me think of so many different avenues to just take the questions, right? Because I know the listeners, they're probably like, dig into that, Marquita, go back on that. The first thing that is think like the customers, right? Think like the listeners. The first thing I want to talk about, or just unpack rather, is the wealth plan, right?
Mhm.
I think for many women listening, this is their first time probably even hearing what a wealth plan is. I love the fact that you said I was intimidated by it. I put it off because I felt like it was me preparing to die, And then I had this mindset shift of no, I am preparing. And for the mom that doesn't know, or the woman that's listening, I always say the woman, right? Um, and shout out to all of the women that listen to the Mommy
Yes,
Making Millions podcast that say it's just so good.
absolutely.
They're coming to get the gems. What is the wealth plan?
So I think the wealth plan is you need to number one know your numbers, right? You need to know your numbers, and that includes what you own. It includes what you owe. It's okay that you have debt, and let's just say this debt. Let me give you a new perspective on debt. Debt is just you leveraging someone else's money. It's not good and it's not bad. It is what it is. Student loans are not good, they are not bad. You leverage someone else's money so that you can finish school, right? I look at it like if not for that leverage, I would not be a college graduate. I would not be doing what I'm doing. So I don't make it good or bad. Credit card debt is not good or bad. It is just you leveraging someone else's money to buy whatever it is that you bought. Let the emotional turmoil that you have about having debt go. Be more intentional going forward that when you use debt, you'll use it in a way that serves your goals, period. So know what you own, know what you owe, know your credit score. It doesn't matter where you are now. That is just where you are now. You're going to work on it. You're going to get your plan together and you're going to fix it. Period. We're so emotional when it comes to money but it's rooted in like fear and shame, and we should be so much further, and now I made all of these mistakes, so we take it so personal and let that define us. You made the best decisions with what you had at that moment. You're going to fix it going forward. Know what it costs to be you. A lot of us are spending money on things that are out of what I call order. Let's just say this. So this is the order. When you do your plan, when you do a budget, a spending plan, you're going to reprioritize what's important to you. You're going to start with your basic needs, right? And then you're going to say, you know what? I know I haven't been saving, I haven't been investing. You're going to now prioritize that. That's going to be your security. So you have your basic needs, you have your security. And then you're going to say, okay, well, what's left? That's the stuff that's a priority to you. And so after your priority needs have been met, you're going to say, then the luxury. That's where you're going to buy the things that you want. The problem is sometimes we buy the luxury before our security is taken care of.
Yeah.
We're going to put them in order. And so what you will find is that as you're starting to do this, you may find that, okay, you don't have luxury for the next couple months, right? But your security is taken care of. And what happens when your security is taken care of, that anxiety that you have, it lessens because you know you have this in case something happens plan, or I call it my freedom fund. And so I always put money to my freedom fund. You know, those random checks in the mail, I put it to my freedom fund.
Yes,
you know, yes, to random checks. It's like, okay, thank you for this $4 refund. Let me put that there. And so what happens is it becomes like a new normal for you. And so you start to feel comfortable amassing money. And so then make it a game. Oh, if I have this, I can get to this. And so now you're changing how you view money, and it's not so much scarcity. It's not so much I don't have, because you're prioritizing it. And it's only for a season. We think of it has to be done in a year. Well, it didn't take you a year to get into that situation, so it shouldn't take you a year to get out of it. It may take you a year to build that really good foundation. And we have to stop thinking that, oh, well, it's going to happen fast. Well, you didn't get into it fast. And there's also other stuff that you need to do. Every level that you get to when it comes to money, you're going to have to do new work there. Like the work on being comfortable saving it, sometimes we were raised that, you can't take it with you. And, if you didn't have, you may have this sense of, I'm going to buy everything that I want. And so then that goes against your goal of living a wealthy lifestyle, the ability to have that freedom. And so you just need to look at what you're doing, what your habits are, what your patterns are, and say, is this serving my future goal? Is this serving my wealth plan? Is this serving the goals that I have? And sometimes you'll find that they aren't. But again, go to that story of, what is it that I believe about this? What is it that I was taught about this? Is it true? If it's not true, what's the new belief you want to have? And then again, get that success stacking, have that support, have that new evidence.
Takisha, this has been amazing.
Thank you.
Amazing. Because, I think that defining wealth, you've put a new perspective for just anyone really listening. And for the mom that is in debt, I think there are a lot of people that are too prideful to say, I am really in debt. I don't have a wealth plan. My credit sucks. I'm only looking at bankruptcy negatively. And because of that, it makes me feel like I'm not getting anywhere. I'm never going to get anywhere. I'm going to continue to have these self-inflicting beliefs to make me feel like, I'm comparing myself to what I see on social media. I do see, all of these successful people who appear to be, living their best life through social media and through a social media lens, taking their kids on flights, passport stamps, and we have begun to measure our own life based on someone else's means of wealth and success. And like you're saying, I think that this conversation allows us as women, as moms, as humans to have another narrative towards what we believe wealth is and how we can continue to co-create a new creation of a wealthy mindset. And you even given us strategies on what we can do to begin to implement some best practices so that we can change our mindsets and shift them into believing, what does wealth look like to me? When you talked
Mhm.
about the freedom, even speaking about just how you were talking to your son, when it came Christmas time, and just, breaking those habits so that we're creating new habits, of positive habits of wealth. And I'm just so thankful to have you here on the Mommy Making Millions podcast. I feel like we need like a part two of this. Because it's so much deeper than what money can buy. It's so much deeper than what money can buy.
Yeah.
And I know a lot of times when people hear mommy making millions, it's really not about the millions. It's about the legacy and the birthright and the generational wealth that we're trying to leave. And even if that generational wealth is the fact that we were the ones to do it first, we're the ones that's breaking the generational curses, the generational mindset barriers off of our lives and of our children's life, so that they can go further than we've ever thought. Like the sky is not even the limit. Like we're continuously breaking just so many dynamic, just it's so much that we can definitely unpack here. And so I definitely want to thank you. I really feel like there's so much more, but I want to be.
Well, let me know. We can definitely do a part two. And I do want to say this to the women. Don't allow your self-worth to be tied to your net worth.
Mm,
That's not the formula. Self-worth does not equal net worth, right? I'm sorry, net worth does not equal self-worth. Your
right.
self-worth influences your net worth. What you believe is true for you, what you believe that you can have, will influence how you handle money. But how you handle money is not a direct reflection of you. It is a reflection of your stories, your borrowed beliefs, what your parents told you, what society is telling you. Those may not even be what you truly believe. You're just working off of programming. And you have the power to change it. You have the power to say, this is not how I'm going to do money anymore. This is not the story I'm going to tell myself about money anymore. This is not the story I'm going to have about money anymore. I remember when I was first heard about, making millions, and that sounded so far fetched. And I was just like, that is just so uncomfortable to me. And I would say, my first goal was, I'm going to make $250,000. And it was just me getting used to saying millions and me earning it.
Yes.
And then it was like, okay, I'm going to get to $500,000. And as I'm getting closer, now the goal is like, it's 1 million or as close to it as possible, because it doesn't seem so far away. But I've had to change the
Mm,
way I look at it. And I had to break it up into little incremental steps along the way. So it's possible, guys. Like it really is. And if you say $250,000 and you get to 60,000, you're still good.
still.
Aim for it again. Like it's no shame in having the same goal the next year and striving to get to it. Like everything isn't instantaneous, but it's possible. And I think if I leave you with nothing else, is that it is possible. It is possible for you to change your life. Period.
Period.
Period. I will fight you on it. Like it is so possible, but you do have to think about what you think about.
Hmm. I love this. We might just have to have you at the 2023 Mommy Making Millions brunch, because
Yes.
I think that what you're saying, you've definitely shifted the mindset of a lot of the listeners today, that are listening. And going forward, I think that, saying we are millionaires and future billionaires or whatever we believe we will
Mhm.
become, saying it, writing it down, and manifesting it, and allowing God to co-create, and learning how to sell success stack in the process gives us that blanket of assurity that it can come to pass. We just have to continue. We haven't gotten to strategies yet, but I wanted to say, how can so for our listeners that may want to work with you, how can some of our listeners work with you, or what's coming up? What else do you have within, or are you expecting to see come forward in 2023?
So right now I am working on my digital products. I am working what's of value to me this year is coming from corporate. I've been a full-time entrepreneur for a year, so I am working on time freedom. And so I am working on building my own kind of academy and putting those products in place to really help women, um, not just shift what they believe in, but give them real strategy. It's enough to say like, yeah, you can believe it, but how do you really shift those beliefs? How do you really put the plan into place? So I'm really focusing on building this academy because I feel like we can co-coach ourselves just like we can co-create, but sometimes we don't know what books, or we don't know what strategy, or and so it's me combining all of the knowledge that I've learned and putting it in concise containers that say you don't have to read a 400-page 7 books to do this. This is what it is, and this is how I used it, and this is how you can use it. So I'm really excited about that. I would definitely be doing more speaking and just really getting and sharing the narrative of wealth looks different for everybody, and it's not so much about the money as it is about your ability to live life on your own terms. That's really what wealth is. And I think when we understand that at a core level, a lot more people will have less anxiety, they'll have less guilt and less shame around money. And I really want to just change the narrative about our relationship with money.
Where you're doing just that, at this point, hashtag wealthy mom lifestyle. Um, and then your social media is it at Takisha? Let me make sure I
Yes,
got it.
Takisha Artis. Yes.
Okay. And
And
I'll
that's
make
on
sure.
all social media.
Perfect. I'll be sure to put that into the show notes. Ladies, thank you so much for tuning in to the Mommy Making Millions podcast. I will be sure to make sure you have all of Takisha's information. Be sure to connect with her. Make sure you are on the know for those digital products. I don't know if you have any kind of downloads, but I'll make sure that we put all of your information inside of our show notes so that they can connect with you, because you're someone definitely that needs to be in all of the Mommy Making Millions proximity. I don't know why I can't talk today. So this has been fun. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
All right, Mommy Millionaires, that wraps up another episode of the Mommy Making Millions podcast. Listen, your reviews are everything. I mean, they really let me know on days where I really be feeling like giving this thing on up, child. Should I keep going? I sit back and I'll read all of the reviews. So if this podcast, this episode has helped you in any kind of way, please drop a review and let me know. Share this podcast with your community, screenshot it, put it on social media, y'all. Like, let's really go up. And I just want to let you know, if you haven't already done so, be sure to click the link for the show notes, because I want you to have access to your 2023 free strategic planning checklist. If you don't already have one, this is something that I'm going to be gifting to you. And again, I just want to say thank you. I just can't say thank you enough, but I want y'all to know I appreciate y'all. Until next time, be good.